So we're back with our talk. With our talk, Making History to Improve People's Lives. And this is Transformative Corporate Edition. Daviane Chemin, she is the Director of Human Resources of the FIEP system. She is Director of the Observatory of the FIEP system, and Gaggero, Cristóbal Gaggero from the Matristic School of Santiago. So you're welcome to our talk that is going to be delivered by Daviane. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What we are calling corporate education or transformative corporate education is an attempt to demonstrate a very rich process of social transformation that took place in the FIEP system through a very deep, profound education process that we qualified as being transformative, and that resulted in great capability of learning, establishing dialogues, and it is a huge learning through working together. So this is an organization that is not a global reference. It makes sense only here in Brazil, and that is the Federation of the Industries of Paraná. So it is very important to tell very briefly what institution we are in and what are the challenges posed for education and cultural transformation. This is an institution that was born to represent the industrial sectors and to promote the sustainable development of the industries through SESI, IEL, FIEP, and SENAI, by providing services in education, cultural, working with the industries, working with innovation inside the industries, and also social innovation, the surroundings in which the companies, the industrial units are located. So they receive a compulsive participation so that we are continuously followed, controlled by regulating agencies. These are not public funding, but it's private funding, but we are bureaucratic, and we work as a company. So this is the kind of company we work in, that even though despite these characteristics, we have lived through a very deep cultural change. And this is an organization that only 8 years ago had 1,000 collaborators, employees. We did not work as an integrated system. Now, IEL, FIEP, SENAI, and SESI, each one of these entities was an isolated company, let's say, and we were very bureaucratic in terms of work and in terms of relationships. We were excessively controlled owing to the characteristics of the institution, of the nature of the institution. We have very little autonomy, and the training and development programs, they happened, they were efficient but ineffective, but they were isolated attempts. They were focused on the individuals and never, as I said, in a systemic way. So in 2003, Rodrigo Rocha Loures took office, and he brought a whole staff and the vision of industrial sustainable development in the broadest sense of the concept. And with this vision of sustainable industrial development, the belief in that the human dimension should be one of the pillars for the strategy of this organization. And this belief was marked by a very important meeting, a very important encounter that signaled this great change. All the stakeholders were called to participate, government, entrepreneurs, the private sector in general, to be sure that the change would be effected through dialogue and by the involvement of people. We had 2,000 people for a whole week conversing, talking with one another, creating the new strategies for the FIEP system. And starting from that event, several stimuli were created, and they ended up in an extremely effective tool for change. And the stimulus was the appreciative inquiry. We were certified in the appreciative inquiry that was created by Case Western University, so we were certified in that methodology. And we were inviting people first to look at others and to see them as strong people with their weaknesses, with their strengths, in the complexity in which we were immersed. We had another stimulus that was working as and operating as a system. Our team of directors were always in contact, participating in dialogues on a specific forum, and making decisions with a systemic impact and aligning strategies that could no longer operate in isolation. They all converged to a bigger goal, and that was to improve the life of people in the industry and in society. Our actions, well, the actions that were proposed and done by people and suggestions from people provoked the leaders, and they became actors of the processes. And so the people were more implicated in the doings, the workings of the organization. And so these objectives worked as fertilizers to prepare fertile soil, and that is the soil of the FIEP system. And in this fertile soil, we wanted to look at the results and the commitment to the results. And we created strategic maps, balanced scorecards, commitments with results. We established agreements among people, focus on the customer. All this helped us to meet our results, find good results. And the way that we achieve these results through values, through beliefs, through looking at people and seeing what they had to offer. And so this fertile soil was fertilized by the actions of the entities. They have the goal of improving the life of people, working with education, leisure, and education and well-being. And when the entities took these actions, the whole group found possibilities that emerged from this synergy. And the transformative education was the main axis of this. So education provided by FIEP was always based on action, experience, and reflection. And being able to understand this, we were stimulated by proposals. Here we have the culture of innovation. And in terms of innovation culture, we invested heavily in terms of financial resources, but much more the investment of time, mobilization of people inside the organization with the purpose of creating an innovation culture. We often talked about innovation. We have to be innovative. But when we thought about this theme, we understood that first of all, we had to build an innovation culture, and for that purpose, we used whatever was at hand in terms of international cooperation. Marc Gigé was with us for a whole year working with 500 people in the organization with the purpose of building this culture. This produced results in several projects, and I think it is growing still, and it is permeating other spheres and other levels of the organization. We had a new impetus. We went through a program that was called Cultural Biology. It was a strategic partnership with the Matristic School of Santiago, where we have a group of 70 students, where 50 people were key people in the FIEP system. They worked and still work with education. They're managers of strategic areas that were experiencing a different way of understanding things. I think it is also important here to talk about cultural biology and the impact of this process, because maybe this is something that is one of the boldest things I ever saw in the corporation area. It was a process of 3 years and not 3 months. So the organization wanted to offer on the work site 1 week every 3 months for 3 years. And during these, in the meantime, several activities for thinking, where an emotional space, a unique emotional space was created. It is a process that permeated the whole organization from high management to the lowest hierarchical levels, people who work with young people, many people associated with education. And so we created a whole new vocabulary, different dreams, wishes for transformation, and ways of operating that up to then were unknown in this organization. And what is interesting to see is that the cultural biology program, as it advanced, whenever there was a difficulty, whenever there was the need to establish new communication means with the staff members or with the high management, we designed a new program, a second program, or a follow-up program that is the understanding to bring this cultural biology to people who had not could not participate in this. So EMO was created, and so all the staff could profit from the same kind of conversations that took place during the cultural biology courses. And so new languages emerged, and a wider understanding of things was also made possible. So we began to understand what well-being in the organization means, and we started to look for further well-being spaces within the organization. And so in this corporate education process, we had a process of understanding of knowledge, and we were missing opportune action so that all this methodology, just to give it a name, could be put into practice and by the management of the organization. At that time, we thought it was important to create the organizational matricial understanding. And this understanding process tried, and I think it succeeded somehow, to generate and create spaces for conversation